Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1970s.
She who is buried here shall henceforth have no name, shall cease to exist in the minds of men, as she has ceased to exist in life. Even,
he says. This is episode 203, recorded November 22nd, 2023.
Gruesome Magazine.
Hello once again. I'm your host, Doc Rotten, and this podcast is about horror films released between 1970 and 1979. Each episode, my co-hosts Jeff Mohr and Bill Mulligan and Chad Hunt and I will take a look at another classic, or not-so-classic, film from this wondrous, groovy, gory, and influential decade. And every once in a while, we'll tap a Hammer film, as we do tonight. All right, with me this week is my co-host, the one and only Jeff Mohr. And Jeff, how you doing, sir?
I'm fired up. What a perfect time to do a movie with a bunch of characters that get their necks all chewed up. The day before Thanksgiving.
Get them all bent out of shape is what they are. Their necks all bent out.
a bunch of turkeys.
Oh, don't get me started. Don't get me started about turkeys. All right, joining us tonight is Bill Mulligan, writer, director, special effects guru, and all-around nice guy, and also a published author.
Whoa, yes.
Don't miss your cue, sir. Don't miss your cue.
I should just wear this, It's Rome from Falstaff Books.
Tape it to your face. We'd rather look at that anyway.
So would I.
Oh.
Your mockery can't bother me. I've got some stock cooking on the stove. I've got a turkey brining out on the porch. Yeah.
Not on the porch with all the...
Gonna be good. Where all the raccoons and...
I know the raccoons are eating it, yeah.
We're eating something. I don't know.
Trash pandas have already taken care of it. All right, also joining us tonight is Chad Hunt, comic book artist, co-host of all the Decades of Horror podcast, and
and he looks like me.
director and writer as well. I do.
Your eyes are as bad as mine. Hey, how's it going?
How are you, sir?
I'll say I said it before the podcast. I'm going to say it again. Imagine me having never seen this movie, watching it in the first couple of minutes. There's a severed freaking hand in it.
Yes,
Who'd have thunk it?
Yes, I picked it. I did not remember about the hand. I
did.
I did not. I guess you knew what was happening. You were chuckling on the inside. All right.
Oh yes.
Thanks for the heads up.
I did.
For those who knew, thanks for the heads up.
Totally escaping. Yes, we are reviewing Blood of the Mummy's Tomb, a 1971 Hammer mummy film. And they didn't keep it under wraps, did they? Anyway,
They did not.
we'll get to that here in a
Thank
second.
goodness. That's the only thing that kept my attention.
Well, there you go. There was no reason to wrap that up. All right. Before we get into everything, Jeff, do you have anything to share about Play Now Media?
Well, yeah, we're partnering with them. And in fact, Decades of Horror of the 1970s, all of our episodes starting with, I was going to say Octomom, but Octoman.
Octomom.
I think it was episode 118. You can view them on their Wicked Horror TV channel, which in fact
Jeff's
also
filling
has,
his retirement lifetime TV shows in the afternoons.
Yes. I saw the headline and that was all she wrote. Anyway, so you can check this movie out on Wicked Horror TV as the Grue Crew.
Yep, that's where I watched it.
Yep. Same here.
I tried to watch it somewhere else and it did not work. So it stopped and never would start again.
What?
So thank you, Wizard Horror TV, for actually working and allowing me to watch this movie. All right. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to take a look at this film. We're going to share our thoughts about it when we first saw it, what we think of it, and then we're going to get into a general discussion about the film. We'll dive into the actors, the events, what surrounded the making of the film, and this one has a lot of backstory behind it, and then we'll wrap things up after that with some feedback. Let's jump into the cards, shall we, Jeff, and just get things going?
Sure. You want me to read it?
Sure, I'd love that.
Is that my new job?
You're hired.
All right. Well, our topic this episode is Blood from the Mummy's Tomb, released in 1971, directed by Seth Holt for 5 out of 6 weeks, and we'll talk about that later. Written by Christopher Wicking, the screenplay from the Bram Stoker novel Jewel of the Seven Stars, released in 1903, and we'll talk about that as well. The cast includes Valerie, is it Leon, guys, or Leon?
I think so.
Valerie Leon, Andrew Keir, James Villiers, Hugh Burden, George Coulouris, Rosalie Crutchley, Aubrey Morris, and Mark Edwards. And, of course, this is a Hammer film.
Yay.
Filmed at Elstree Studios. Filming dates, January 11th through February 21st, 1971. It was released in the UK on October 14th, 1971, and in the US on May 17th, 1972. Also known as Exorcismus Cleo la Dea dell'Amor in Italy, or Exorcismus Cleo, the Goddess of Love, or in Germany, Das Grab der blutigen Mumme,
Oh, wow.
which is the Tomb of the Bloody Mummy. It's not any different, but it just sounds so good. The
Yeah.
synopsis.
Tomb of the Bloody Mummy. I like that, though.
Synopsis. And an archaeological expedition brings back to London the coffin of an Egyptian queen known for her magical powers. Her spirit returns in the form of a young girl, and strange things start to happen. Now, this guy in the picture is one of the guys that discovered the mummy, but I thought it kind of looked like me right before Linda decides to let me come out and play.
Oh, man. That is perfect. That's perfect. I love it. All right. Well, this was my pick, but I don't want to go first. I want to find out, since I did Chad a great disservice. We'll start with Chad, and I apologies forthcoming. Chad, what did you think of this? When you first see it, what was your first impression, and does it hold up today?
I hated it.
No.
No, I didn't.
No.
I did fast forward through all the hands crawling around though.
But they were funny, though. It's like,
Yeah, I had never seen this. I thought I had seen this, but I have not. And as far as mummy movies go, there was no traditional mummy in there, but boy, did we get something good in return. We got what was her name? Lena. What was the princess's name? Or
Tara.
Tara. We got Tara, who was fine, and it was a good movie. It's sort of went along the lines of the curse when they find the tomb and everything, and they start to go crazy. Each one of them steals one of these artifacts from the tomb or whatever, and the mummy comes back to claim these artifacts, and so it was a good storyline. Very entertaining film. It was I can't say if it was scary or not, but it was it was really entertaining. I've never been too scared of mummy movies. They're more adventure films to me than anything. And this one was no different. It was sort of an adventure type movie, and a little bit different from the Christopher Lee Hammer film of the mummy. He actually played a wrapped up kind of a monster, but Tara was easy on the eyes, so that made that a little bit easier to handle, that she wasn't all wrapped up in gauze. But I liked it a lot. I really did. But boy, I couldn't get the speed fast enough to get by those crawling hands.
It kept coming back too, didn't it?
Yeah. They were opening boxes, and then there's hands in boxes, and they were everywhere. Yeah.
See, that would make it scarier if now the hands could actually move at a really fast rate. Because ordinarily, a severed hand, you could probably outrun it. But you hit the fast forward, and now they're zipping along like race cars.
Well, I had my eyes closed too.
Yeah, his eyes closed. Oh my God, that helps. All right, Bill, when did you first see this movie? What was your first impression, and does it hold up today?
I've got an interesting relationship in this movie because, as I've said before, back in the day, back in the early 70s, my local theater, the only theater in my hometown, was an interesting place that showed porn films at night, and on the weekends had matinees for kids. So we got to walk by some really interesting posters. And this was one of those Hammer double features that they put out there, and parents would just drop us off at the porn theater to amuse ourselves for the day, thinking, oh, they'll go see some horror movies like Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. No, we're watching Vampire Circus and Countess Dracula and this.
Mom,
I
the
don't
floor's
know.
sticky.
Yeah. Oh. I don't know what this was paired with. I don't remember, but I remember
Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde.
Yeah, well, but not. That's not what I saw.
Not here.
It was,
Depending on
very-
what day you
what-
go. If you went on Saturday, it was Dr. Schmeckel.
It wasn't in the States?
It wasn't Night of the Blood Monster.
No. They were these were very random when what they did. I think they just picked one out of a hat or whatever. And the movie started, and I was introduced for the first time to the concept of the under boob, and I've been a tremendous fan ever since. So this was a great movie to watch at that age. It was like, holy crap, this is not Lon Chaney stumbling around with some gauze on. This is my kind of mummy. And it's still my second favorite Hammer mummy movie. Now, having said that, they made 4. One of them is the one with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. Is just top 10 horror film. Great film. And there's this one. And then the other 2 are absolutely dreadful. So being the second is no great shakes, but I still like it. It's latter day Hammer when they were looking for something that would stick, and they never quite found it. It's got some sexiness without going over the top. There's not a lot of nudity and everything. It struck me as being really kind of gory at the time. Now it seems pretty tame, unless you've really got a hand thing going, and then it's profoundly disturbing. I enjoyed it. I really do, and I think it holds up better than I thought it would. It's been a while since I've seen it, and watching it again, some of the Hammer movies toward the end started looking a little cheap, and there's a bit of that here. I get the feeling like if this had been in the early '60s or so, the whole sequence in the beginning with them sacrificing her and everything would have had a lot more people. I mean, that was a pretty threadbare burial party.
5
there.
people.
Yeah, So it looks cheap, but the color's good. I think it's well directed. It has good composition. It looks like a real movie, and I think that's what sort of really impressed me when I was a kid. That watching horror movies was pretty much all the Universal films and everything, black and white, pretty tame, and being exposed to these Hammer movies was just a revelation. Because one, beautiful half-dressed women, but also good filmmaking, professional filmmaking. Not that the Universal films weren't, but they were black and white and had that old-fashioned look, and this was modern stuff. So it was a good film to watch at the time I watched it, and I think it still holds up.
Still holds up. All right. Jeff Mohr, sir, when did you first see the blood from the mummy's tomb? What was your first impression, and does it hold up today?
First time I saw it was yesterday.
Yes.
Oh.
Yesterday.
And
The second time you saw it was yesterday.
no, today. So
Perfect.
well, here's the deal. We had done The Mummy, 1959, on Classic Era in episode 91. That was our first video episode. And I hadn't watched any of the other ones, and I kind of heard people down talking them and stuff. Well, when we came to do this one, I decided to watch. Bill was always talking about how this was the second best one, and so I binged all 4 of them.
Benched all 4.
So the 4th one I watched was this one. And so anyway, just talking about this one, I'll say I liked it quite a bit. I mean, Valerie Leone is awesome. And we'll talk a little bit about the change in lead actor later too, I'm sure. Andrew Keir represents himself very admirably. Oh, and by the way, it's Bray Studios. Why my mind went blank, and nobody else could help me, I don't know.
Hey, as soon as you said it, my brain.
That's where Hammer films were filmed up through the late '60s. So, anyway, I liked it a lot. I liked the whole the way it felt kind of disjointed, but it wasn't. It went boom, boom, boom. Here's what's happening. Here's the people that got to get killed, and here's some collateral damage because they stick their noses in. I ain't messing with them either. So, and I was trying to figure out what the hell was going on because all their throats were ripped out, but then I sort of figured it out. So anyway, I thought it was excellent. Yeah, I don't know about how scary it was, but it was a great story. And apparently, except for the idea of trying to find all these artifacts and bring them back, it was pretty close to Bram Stoker's novel. I mean, in the novel, what they're doing is they're trying to solve the opening scene is when the father collapses on the Tara's coffin and goes into a coma, and it's a mystery that they're trying to find out why that happened, and nobody knows the whole story.
Come on, Stu.
But it's very similar in terms of everything else. So anyway, I loved it. I liked it, and I think it's impressive in some ways that the first one isn't. They're two different pieces, but I think it's close to that.
Yeah. Bram Stoker's
except the Jewel of the Seven Stars, except for the fact that Cushing and Lee. So that's
a big thing.
Card.
It almost had Cushing in it.
Almost.
Well, it did for a day. We'll get to that.
Alrighty.
We'll get to that. The filmmaking, creating this film was a troubled production. So we'll talk about that. Bill has a lot to say, I'm sure. The Mummy films, the Hammer Mummy films, have never been the go-to Hammer movies. Although I seem to like the Mummy Shroud better than you guys do.
Really?
I think it's just because of the mummy design. Maybe, but
all right. So I'm going to stick my face in here because you're bringing it up. The Mummy Shroud. There's three great things about the Mummy Shroud. One is it's probably the biggest part Michael Ripper ever had in a Hammer movie, and he's awesome in it. And the lead character is a total ass, and everybody knows it. And by the end of the movie, they all just go, "Hey, screw you! You're on your own." So I thought that was great. The mummy suit, terrible. Yeah. But Curse of the Mummy is
I don't know.
hard. Curse of the Mummy is much harder to sit through. So
is that the one where he looks like a wicker basket? He's all kind of.
It just looks. If they show a full body shot, it looks like they pulled a thing over his head, and I don't know. I think isn't the Curse of the Mummy the one with the crisscross bandages on the arm?
I hate that look. I hate that. I don't know which one it is.
I don't know that. The story on that is just lame as hell. You can't.
Yeah.
I had a hard time sticking with that one out of all of them. Sorry, Doc.
Well, as far as this movie goes, I enjoyed it. I can't say I liked it, but I did enjoy it. There is a particular scene that we'll get to that I thought was far above and beyond the entire picture. There's this crazy storm sequence that in an insane asylum that really is well done, intense, and had me on the edge. I was surprised, Chad, about the hand. And I said, "Oh no, they chopped the hand off and they threw it to the jackals. This is not going to go good. I know how this is going to end now." But at the same time, I enjoyed it. For me, I think yes. Valerie Leon is wonderful to look at, but I do like the wrapped up mummies and the mummy pictures. So that did
no mummy in this one, right?
It did get me in a way, but it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. And I did find myself watching the film wondering how it would be with Peter Cushing in it, so I was distracted by that. I do think it holds up, though. I mean, it's sparse. I think, Bill, is what you were talking about. Like, it has a pretty large cast because there's a lot of people to kill, but like some of the sets are sparse, and then like you said, there's only 5 people comparing her, and it's not really elaborate. It's pretty.
Yeah, 5 of the whitest Egyptians I've ever seen.
Very suggesting, more than showing. But anyway, and to me, I had some problems with some of the, who is, whether it's Margaret or Tara, but I'm nitpicking. In the end, it was better than I remembered it being. I can't tell you when or if I'd seen this entirely before. Watching it, I feel like I didn't watch it entirely. I know I'd seen some of it, but I don't think I saw the entire picture for whatever reason. But I did catch it over the weekend, and I did watch it 1.5 times. I had to watch the ending again because I was like, what really happened? And I watched it again. From about the time the last person got slaughtered up until the finale, just to kind of go over it again. Like, what are they doing with the knives? Who's doing what? What's going on? Is she what? Which one is she? Anyway, I'm a little bit of two minds about this movie. But yes, Margaret and Tara were pretty to look at.
A Man with Two Minds. That sounds like a Hammer horror film.
It does, doesn't it? But not that I didn't enjoy it. Just wanted more. I wanted something different.
We've done a couple of those on the classic era, I think. Man with Two Minds, yeah.
We've done a couple in the 70s, too. All right. Before we get into everything, I believe
It's time.
Time for feedback?
Nope.
Now time for...
Movie time? Nah.
Oh,
Free time.
Just because you had to put up with the hand.
Well, I sure hope the subject of hands comes up in the taglines.
This is a Hammer film. It's probably got some quality taglines. I make it a habit of never reading the taglines before.
Well, this is late Hammer, so keep your expectations low.
Okay. Your taglines for the movie Blood on the Mummy's Tomb are as follows. A severed hand beckons from an open grave.
Come to us, Chad.
The hand that crawls, that grips, that kills.
So obviously, the crawling hand did not make a big impression on me back in the day.
No,
apparently it was supposed to.
I'll bet it's not in the posters though, Doc. So it's okay.
This sounds more like one of those movies Bill went to see at the porno movie theater. The hand that crawls, grips, and kills.
The gripping hand, I do remember. Yeah.
Tara, Queen of Darkness. She cursed those who sacrificed her. His mummy bled drops of hate and revenge for every century of waiting in the tomb.
I think they kind of got lost in the weeds when they wrote that one.
His mummy?
His mummy.
Well, I saw that, and I was thinking they were talking about that Fuchs had this mummy, so it's his mummy. That's the only thing I could figure out.
Oh, okay.
It seemed
Why did
pretty
it put
obvious.
the mummy? Why did it put his?
Yeah. Pronouns, pal.
Yeah.
Pronouns.
Anyway,
Well, there you go.
Taglines.
That seemed rather uneventful.
That's been Taglines with Chad.
Oh, and the train wreck keeps going.
I got a twitchy finger. Guys.
Is that what they call it?
Oh,
that could have went
well-oiled
better.
machine.
All right, let's take a look at. Okay, you were talking about the poster, so I think that's a good time to take a look at it.
Oh, there's a severed hand right there.
There is
Boy,
a severed
front and
hand.
center.
Right there. But I might have been distracted.
You might have been.
You know what? This is the first time I've seen the severed hand in this one.
Yeah,
That's
you weren't
no
looking
lie.
at it, were you? No.
That is funny.
Wasn't even looking.
And what's the color of her eyes? Who knows?
You know, I like this poster. It's
So
it's
boys,
kind of
boys.
cheesy, but I like it.
Well, the design is awesome.
I don't know why I like it. Can't put my finger on
Yeah,
it.
it
But,
is.
yeah. It's good. And toward the end, Hammer posters were getting dire. They really were. So it's nice to see this one that kind of, yeah.
PG.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, all the stuff I saw was PG. Even I think Vampire Circus that you feel like could have gotten an R.
Well, there is an R cut of it. They cut it down to be PG. Oh. Anyway, that's a different podcast, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, I like the design. I mean, the composition, the sarcophagus, the look in the middle. You know, the color. The
font of the
we'll
movie.
Just say it.
Oh, great. It looks like an old pulp magazine cover.
It does, doesn't it?
Right. And the title too, you got to give credit. This is a great title. And apparently the writer, when they were throwing titles around, they came up with this one. He's like, yeah, he agreed to it because he figured there's no way that they're going to use so, lurid a title as Blood from the Mummy's Tomb. And by God, no, they went with it. And I'm pretty sure this was on my mind when we were kicking around when I made my low-budget movie, Blood of the Mummy. I was definitely thinking of this when we were throwing titles around.
Sure.
So.
Well, and that's what I read a thing that said the writer, Wickings, I thought wanted the Jewel of the Seven Stars, but the producers were like going, yeah, nobody's going to see that.
Nobody's going to. No.
So
good
then
call,
they started
producers.
just like throwing out what are words we can use with mummy, Oh, blood.
Mummy,
tomb,
blood.
Oh, this is good. And so.
I mean, it fits. There is blood.
Yeah, there is blood. There's a mummy and there's a tomb.
Let me pull out my exploitation encyclopedia.
And just start rolling some dice to see which ones come up. All right. Then, of course, we have this one, which I'm not sure where that comes from, but look what's there. Sorry, Chad.
Yeah. Right. Literally front and center.
I don't think I've ever seen this one before.
That's like some of those monster movies where the monster who's like 10 feet tall now becomes the size of the Golden Gate Bridge, Monster.
Yep.
That's a big hand.
Oh, there it is again.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Look at that. It looks better.
Hand Van de Mummy. I feel like I'm learning other languages just from.
I think
I'm sure that's the hand of the mummy, huh? In probably Belgian, that.
And then what is La Momie Sanglante?
I think it's bloody mummy or blood of the mummy.
The hand of the mummy whose hand is bloody.
Oh, that's something else. All right. Well, let's. Where do we go first with this? I mean, do we just go? Okay. We got to talk about the troubled production.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I could kind of start there because Peter Cushing was cast in the role of Fuchs, who was later portrayed by Andrew Keir, who's a respected and very capable actor that we like in other films really well, right?
But we love Peter Cushing
because he's Quatermass somewhere, right? Isn't he? Or
Andrew Keir was in
Quatermass in the Pit.
In the Pit.
Yep.
Yeah, and then he's is he Reverend? Oh, what is he? He's
in
Sandor. I think
Sandor. Yes, Sandor. Yeah. Yeah, because they made
Prince of Darkness.
Yeah,
Prince of Darkness. Okay, you're right.
Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
They made comic sequels to that. Chad, do you remember that from the
Xandor?
The House of Hammer? They had some backup.
Oh yeah,
stories
that's right.
Just him
that's
in
right.
It. Yeah,
that's right.
Well, he was a good character in that.
Yeah.
And they could have continued that character along.
They should have. They missed.
Yeah, he was.
You can't get Cushing. Put Sandor in. Well, there he is. That's his one day on set.
Yeah, Cushing was on the set for one day. And then what's the story behind?
He did
Helen.
the scene where he gives her the ring.
Which made no sense in the movie, by the way.
Yeah,
you're in danger. Well, here's a mummy's ring. That'll work out for you.
She was really bummed out because she was excited about working with Cushing.
Oh, yeah, who wouldn't be? Well, his wife, Helen, when you read stories about Peter Cushing's roles at this time, it's all variations of either he seems so sad because Helen was either sick or had just died, or he had to leave the production because Helen was sick. His wife, Helen, he was very devoted to her. And this was, she had gotten very ill, I think emphysema or pneumonia, something, and he had to leave. And it's just really sad because, boy, when you read anything that he's written, any of the interviews and everything, when she died, he was like, well, hopefully I'll be joining her soon. And then it was like forever before it happened. I mean, and he just spent the rest of his life really mourning and just wishing that he was dead, which is sad, but it also made some of his performances so touching. And I would have liked to have seen him in this, but
yeah, something I read said they were trying to arrange everything for him to make his days really short, so he could spend time with his wife because she was sick, and they did that one day, and then he called him up that night to talk about the next day, and he was crying, and she wasn't expected to live long, and so they let him out of his contract and brought in Keir.
Well, good for them on that, because a lot of times these movie people act like complete and utter bastards. So
yeah, but this is
Cushing. I mean,
what he Peter Cushing,
no, especially when you consider what he and Christopher Lee, what they made Hammer. They created Hammer. It's hard to imagine Hammer even existing without their contributions. So
you don't want to be the studio that didn't let him go be with his wife,
right? Oh God, yeah, you can't buy bad publicity like that.
Because they did treat him with respect, but they didn't treat everybody else with respect, especially
like
Valerie
here.
Yeah. I guess we'll get to her when we talk about her. But yeah, Peter Cushing would have been fantastic in this role, but it's completely understandable. And then of course when he did, like you said, Tales from the Crypt. If you watch Tales from the Crypt with any knowledge of what was going on or what he had just gone through, that role takes on so much more depth to it.
And then you see like Dracula AD 72, which is not long after all this. He had aged so much from grief that they recast him. He was supposed to be the one woman's father. They changed it to grandfather because it just made more sense the way he looked. Yeah, that's just heartbreaking.
Well, imagine if Peter Cushing did it, if they could have got Christopher Lee as the Villiers, the Corbeck character.
That would have been interesting.
The nemesis. That was thrown up by Steve Haberman on the Blu-ray commentary.
Interesting.
Not that there was any talk of that, but
yeah,
you immediately think of that, right?
Yeah. And of course, Andrew Keir, took up the role. And he was very good in the role. I do think when I look at that top photo and that scene, that whole scene there, the tenderness with her, I can see Cushing very much doing that. I have a harder time imagining some of the other scenes with Peter Cushing, but definitely that. And this guy is an excellent actor. Look, Quatermass in the Pit is just one of the best, one of the absolute best Hammer, one of the best science fiction films. Just a great concept. Well, I'd love to see it remade, not for different reasons. It's great the way it is, but boy, it's they just didn't have the budget to realize some of the ideas that are in the film, and they could do it now. I can't imagine they'd make a better film, but it would be interesting to see.
And Nigel Neal said he was his favorite Quatermass, but
he hated the others.
He hated Brian Dunlap.
Yeah, so yeah. And he was great in Dracula, Prince of Darkness. He was an interesting character. I mean, a legit
Father
warrior
Sandor
priest. He had the physicality. He was a good. If you can't get Van Helsing, get Father Sandor. So I thought he was fine in this.
And he stepped up with no notice. I mean,
that too. Right. I mean, literally. They sideline him for a long period of time, though. I mean, he's just bedridden for a while, which seemed...
The character? Yeah. I wonder if that was, like, in place, and then they just...
Oh, interesting.
No, that's part of the story, though.
Oh, is it?
Oh, is it? Okay.
He's in a coma as part of the story.
He fell into a coma early on, right?
Yeah.
And the guy in the story, his hand, like, gets all clawed up. So that's kind of what they did here with his left side.
It kind of made the character... I don't know. To me, that was problematic. I mean, I get what they were doing, like you're saying, but to me, it hindered the story a bit. But maybe I'm reading too much into it. Regardless, he was great.
Yeah, he was good in it.
Well, there was nobody to stop his daughter from running around.
That's true.
With him in the bed, So
yep.
That is true.
I didn't mean it the way it sounded.
Most dads are like that.
She was shopping.
Before we get to the director and the screenwriter, let's talk about Valerie, because I think everybody here wants to talk about Valerie early on.
Sure.
Who could have had a wonderful career after this. I mean, she got rave reviews, even though maybe the film didn't, but she did. And she was kind of dropped by Hammer after this because she wouldn't do nudity, of all things. I don't think that would fly today, but
I don't get that. I don't get that because it's not like the Hammer films, these later ones like post Vampire Lovers, are swimming in nudity. There is nudity, but but I hear this. I hear Carolyn Monroe turned down Vampirilla because she said there was just lots of nudity, and she only made a few. And she also she wouldn't do that. She only made a few films for Hammer. But then some of the other actresses who did do nudity, they didn't make many films for Hammer either. I don't get it. She was great in this. She can act. She's gorgeous and she can act. Have some of the victims be nude, whatever.
It's kind of a shame too, in that there was that. In terms of nudity, there was a super brief flash when she jumps out of bed and runs and
puts on
get
her
dressed.
tighty whities.
That was a body double. Even that, she wouldn't do that. And that's fine. I'm not
absolutely.
It's problematic or anything.
Don't blame her.
I don't. But what I'm saying is she didn't deserve the disrespect that Hammer gave her because of it.
Right. Well, they also did, and apparently they did this a lot, but somebody else voiced her in the, recorded over her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and nobody could figure out why they did that, and the person that did it was Olive Gregg.
So her voice in this is dubbed?
Yes.
That's
a very, very good job, but they
did a good job.
Olive Gregg was a 46-year-old woman that, and the people that knew, if you watch her in other films and go, there's nothing wrong with her voice. Why would they?
Yeah.
So.
That makes it hard to really gauge her acting because so much of what you see as acting is from the actor's voice and their inflection. But she seemed fine in this. I mean, physically she's great, of course, but I thought she gave a good performance. Now, again, now that you've said this, it makes it hard to really say, did she give a good performance? Because I don't know. So much of that is from the...
Well, I in terms of her, there's a lot of facial expressions, too, in terms of her looking dazed, etc. There was a lot of acting going on without any talking, because when Tara was sort of
taken over,
a slightly different look in her face, and the person that voiced her did a great job too. Work. But I still would have liked to. I don't get it.
And it's one of the rare times where I believe the romance between the the female lead and the romantic male lead. Yeah. There's a lot in the 70s where it just feels forced. But it felt natural here, and we'll get to the... They
felt like they genuinely liked each other.
Yeah.
Even though she wouldn't do a nude scene, she'd lay in bed with the guy and eat a banana.
Yeah, well...
Gotta have that. And he ate it too, so...
Leave it to Jeff to draw that back out of me.
Wow. Dr. Freud here.
You don't think they did that on purpose? I mean, of all the things you could eat. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'll never look at a banana the same way again.
Oh my God! Well, how do you normally look at bananas? All right,
not that way.
Let's get to the director.
It's good with peanut butter.
The director primarily is Seth Holt, and then Michael Carreras came in and finished the film because, unfortunately, Seth Holt passed away from a heart attack before the film could be completed.
I think did he die on the set?
No.
Okay.
So they said he had hiccups for like 5 days. He'd had a heart attack before, and he had hiccups for like 5 days. And this is really kind of sad. And two different people told this story. I don't know if they got it from the same source or not, but he was home. They were entertaining. They had drinks. The people left. He stood up and said to his wife, "I'm going," and fell over.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God, really? So he knew. Oh, wow. Well.
Anyway, so they didn't know. We don't know what hiccups has to do with a heart attack, but having them for 5 days could be tough.
He only made a few thriller horror type films, but they're interesting. And looking him up, he's considered like one of those things they talk about. This is one of those guys who should have had the opportunity to do a lot more because even in his lower budget things, he shows a lot of skill.
Yeah, he was only like 47. I think.
Yeah.
He was an assistant editor.
Oh yeah.
On
good films.
Dead of Night.
Yeah.
From Ealing Studios in the 40s.
Wow.
But that movie you got on there, Scream of Fear, that is a great movie. That thing's got more twists than a mountain road. It's
there you go. I love that expression.
Oh my God. I watched that not too long ago, and I just was like, you know, it's a Hitchcockian type thing, and you're trying to figure out who to trust and who not to trust, and it changes over and over and over and over again. It is so well done. And Christopher Lee's in that, and he said Seth Holt was the best director working in England.
Wow, nice.
After that movie. So
he got to direct Betty Davis and The Nanny. So look at that.
Yeah.
Well, he also was really he was as an editor, he was in some top films. He was in Lavender Hill Mob, Kind Hearts and Coronets, and The Lady Killers, 3 Alec Guinness movies that are absolutely fantastic.
I love it when we have Peter Cushing and mention Alec Guinness, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Without having to say Star Wars.
But you know,
Chad,
he went out
what
doing
did you
what he
think about
loved.
the hand part? That's never.
Oh my goodness. Man.
Just when I got it out of my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
it's coming back.
Valerie Leon was very impressed with him as well, and was very distressed because they wouldn't let her off the set to go mourn him
At his funeral. Okay, so
That's
now
the
they're
same
back.
thing.
Now they're back
Yeah.
to being jerks again. So they
Yeah,
had
that's what I'm
had
saying.
us with Peter. They were nice with Peter, but then they act like, you know, good God, what common human decency do you lack that the director of your film dies and you're not going to let the folks who are working with him go to the funeral? I mean, how do you look at yourself in the mirror?
I think there was about a week left of a 6-week schedule is all that was left. And so this is weird too, because this is the first Michael Carreras, his dad wanted to get out of it, James, and Michael Carreras wanted to run it. And so he made Michael the managing director of Hammer.
Yeah.
And this was his first film of us doing that. And so you get a call 5 weeks in, the director's dead.
Yeah.
Or the lead actor can't play, you know. So, but yeah,
Michael Carreras couldn't catch a break. I met him at the Famous Monsters convention. I met him. I said hi at the Famous Monsters convention back in the 70s when they were pushing Vampirella as going to be the film that was going to bring Hammer back, and he just seemed it. And it was probably just jet lag. But Ingrid Pitt and Peter Cushing were there, and they seemed fine. Michael Carreras looked like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. You just, even as a kid, and I knew nothing about what was going on in Hammer and the politics and everything else, this man just looked like he'd just been through hell, trying to put on a happy front.
This is kind of the start of you guys tell me, isn't this kind of the start of Hammer trying to move from all of the stuff that takes place in the past to modern day? You get instead of having the mummy thing take place in 1900, you move it forward. You have Dracula,
AD 72,
and
because this one kind of
yeah,
you're right. I guess this, I don't know.
Which is probably why they were pushing for more nudity too. You know, a lot of the movies back then had nudity. 70s films, so they put nudity in them. A lot more than they do now, I think. Even.
Yeah. Well, famously, they just couldn't compete with how the genre was changing, especially after 73, 74, into 74, and then when 75 came along with Jaws, everything had changed.
Yeah.
Between Exorcist and Jaws and everything that would come around that, it's like the whole genre had changed.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting time, and they tried, and we'll get to some of their films that they tried toward the end, and there's a reason why you could see they didn't quite catch the drift, but this one was probably one of the better ones that are modernized, because it's not quite. Is it in this set in the 70s, or is it set like in the
No, I think it's set now. I mean, there was
modern day, yeah.
okay.
There were cars, yeah.
in the the current day that it would have came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but even then, it still has a gothic feel to it. You know, like when they're in the tomb, it doesn't feel any different than when they were in the tomb in the Mummy and back in '59. Right. So,
well, how obsessed is that? Not only do you bring this, well, the Mummy's perfectly preserved because of some magic powers, but he like recreates the whole tomb in this room.
Obsessed much?
Except for all the trinkets that they have to go recapture. Oh my god!
Those all got farmed out somehow.
And they did. Let's talk about I was looking up the screenwriter and I was surprised what this guy did.
This guy hasn't. Yeah.
Speaking of,
a lot of good stuff here. You know, two that Oblong Box and Cry of the Banshee, and those are both Gordon Hessler, right? I think so.
Yes, he did.
Right.
4 films with Hessler, I think.
Now, Oblong Box was supposed to be Michael Reeves, who did Witchfinder General, but maybe that's when he died. And he did Scream and Scream Again, which is just a baffling movie. We'll have to do one time.
It's bizarre and yeah.
I thought we did that one already. We hadn't done that one.
No.
Scream Again.
We did, and now the screaming starts.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, those titles.
We've done Cry of the Banshee, right?
Yes.
Yes, we did not like it.
We will have
not fans.
We'll have to do To the Devil a Daughter sometime next
right.
week. It's time. It's time to do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's one of my favorites, but
so again, I was listening to Steve Haberman, the film historian, talking about this, and he spent a lot of time talking about Wickings and how he was pretty young. He was in his 20s, I think, when he wrote these, and how he would insert, things that were important to him. So, like British colonialism as a bad thing, and authority figures. These guys that are trying to run the thing and keep the secrets and stuff and screwing everything up, and so anyway, it was interesting.
He wrote another Gordon Hessler film called Medusa, which starred George Hamilton and Cameron Mitchell, which was about a stewardess is murdered by a masked maniac, and suspicion falls on a drunken American playboy.
Of course.
And he did Murders in the Rue Morgue with Hessler, too.
Yes.
So I guess he and Hessler had a good relationship.
Yeah.
So.
Must have. And then he did Demons of the Mind, which, did you say that? Is that what you said just now? Demons of the Mind?
I didn't.
I don't know. I remember liking the Oblong Box more than most people seem to, but Scream and Scream Again just baffles me, because if it's the way I remember it, and it has been a while, you got a movie with Vincent Price, Christopher Lee, and Peter Cushing in it, and you're like, yay, and I don't know if they had any scenes together.
I think Lee and Price have one. But, you have the opportunity, all three of them, to be together. And that is definitely one we have to do. And I remember Oblong Box, too. That's the one where the brother comes back from, isn't it?
I think it was Africa.
Come back from Africa, and it's all,
It's all disfigured. Yeah. It's got some interesting things to say. So I thought he did a good job with this. I thought, there was nothing. The dialogue was good. There was a good narrative flow to it. I have no objections to the script here.
And then Demons of the Mind was Peter Sykes directing.
One of the things I really liked was there were some scenes that felt really expressionistic or shit, like the scenes when he's going after Berrigan, the old guy that was in the straitjacket, in those hallways, and the people screaming, and the camera angle was and spinning around.
I love that.
That was really good. And then inside the room, flashing from his face to here, back to his face, over there,
and that apparently was Michael Carreras' big contribution. That what it said is that was all the stuff he filmed, and I'll give him full props then to come into the movie under these circumstances. Not a whole lot of time. I mean, obviously, if they're not letting people go to the funeral, it's not like there was a huge delay here. He had to show up the next day or whatever and start filming. He did a good job. So
if he did that scene, that scene is my favorite scene, and that was probably the only scene that has any tension to it. I mean, the rest of the scenes have mystery and suspense to it, but that one had tension and it was palpable, and you felt that shit was going down.
It's a bit
they
more
tried
raw.
to do that with every time they found one of the artifacts. They tried to do crazy, like the old fortune teller lady.
That didn't work that well. But.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't. They tried to do something like that with each time they found something.
Right.
And the one guy who's like almost has a heart attack and dies.
It sort of reminded me of Jess Franco's Count Dracula, where they tried to make the stuffed animals scary by just sort of moving the camera around and everything. But it worked better here.
It worked a lot better because you had the screen. The sound design is what does it. The editing and the sound design really helped that scene.
Well, it's a huge difference for that in comparison to, I think he directed Curse of the Mummies too. Didn't Carreras direct that?
Yes, he did. Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. Well, and he did Lost Continent, which was...
Well, he was a producer on that, right?
Interesting. It says he was a director on it, too.
Okay.
And, wow, I'd like to see Lost Continent again. It's been a long time. I remember...
Yeah, I've been trying to look it up to do on Classic here, because...
it doesn't get shown much.
Dick Clements... Yeah, it's hard to find. Dick Clementson did the commentary for the...
Oh, yeah?
I remember it being very colorful, very much like a men's magazine kind of, men's adventure sort of thing.
Yeah, I remember seeing it as a kid and loved it. I definitely want to. If it ever does, I'm down for that one. I want to see that movie again so bad.
Why some of these never get shown?
Women.
Oh, he did some of the other ones. He did Maniac too.
Oh yeah.
They did those. I forget what they call. They had a name for them. Was it Mini Hitchcocks or something like that?
Oh yeah. And he did Shatter, which was just about the very last Hammer film that was ever made, and it's terrible.
Do we have any pictures of James Villiers, who plays Korbeck?
I think just the one shot of him with Valerie that we've already shown.
This one?
Yeah.
That's the only picture we have of him?
I think so.
Because he's basically the bad guy.
Yeah, I liked him.
I mean, they're all kind of... I don't know. Okay, so that's one aspect of this story that kind of... I don't really know who... Like, they're all kind of presented as bad guys, and they're all against a bad mummy girl.
Well, I think she explained at the end that the mummy drew them to the cave or to the tomb, so they were like under her will when they did it.
Yeah,
and so I don't think they were totally evil. I think they were sort of drawn into it. Yeah,
pawns.
Well,
because
the big difference
he definitely
for me
is.
He's pretty evil though.
Yeah,
he's
the big
evil.
difference for me. The other guys are scared to death and not even really staying in touch. And he's like,
I've traveled the world. I've studied here and there. I've seen things.
I've seen things.
The
Terrible
secrets of
things.
life and death. The power.
I've seen
the
fire
and subway.
I've seen fire and I've seen rain. Yeah, I liked him. When I was watching it, he's so mannered and kind of fussy. I'm thinking, if they had ever remade Bride of Frankenstein, he would be a shoo-in for Dr. Pretorius.
Wow.
He could have knocked that out of the park.
Okay, I'll give you that.
That's
yeah.
I thought he did a great job. I thought I was wondering at sometimes, like you said, Christopher Lee in that role would have been interesting as well.
He had a part in Asylum.
Yes, he did. Lucy Comes to Stay segment. Yep.
Oh.
Which is the one segment that I always forget is in that film. The other parts are so, visually dynamic, and that was visually reserved by comparison.
He's in a very good movie from the 60s, you guys, if you haven't done it already on Classic. The Damned. Oh,
I've heard of that.
And he's in Roman Polanski's Repulsion from 65.
Yes, yes.
So, be interesting to catch some of those. but he was really, really strong. So we have some other ones. Let's go ahead and look at this guy. This guy is,
Greenie McGrinnerton.
He was.
Oh,
but,
this guy.
Okay,
I loved him.
Loved his. He always wore the glasses right at the top because the top's
Yeah.
from the movie. Everything else is from other movies. And I was like, man, I swear I know this guy. I've seen him somewhere.
Oh yeah.
And I looked at his stuff, and I don't know if I can figure out where I've seen him from.
Well, I mean, Clockwork Orange. He had that great role as Malcolm McDowell's social worker, a real creep.
Is that where I remember him from?
And the bottom shot, he was the grave digger in what film was it?
Wicker Man.
Wicker Man.
That's
Thank
Wicker
you.
Man.
Yes.
So the black and white one is one of my personal faves. A cheap, low budget British science fiction movie called Nightcaller from Outer Space. And in the middle of this film about an alien who's coming to Earth to steal our women, the detective goes into this porn shop or whatever, and here he is. And he is just this smirking, creepy, oily, should be put in jail, he's so good. He steals the film. You're just like, wow, I want more of this guy, just to watch him die or something. He's so happy in the role. He really he plays these awful characters who are so happy to be as awful as they are. He's great.
Yeah, he's in Life Force.
I don't remember him in that, but I can see him.
Percy, but I can't.
Sir Percy.
I don't know.
I bet he's smiling.
I think he is. He always is. But I don't know. Every time he was on screen, I was glued to him. He was fascinating.
With those glasses and the grin, it's like this is like an English guy doing Jack Nicholson.
Wasn't it? Because he looks so out of place next. I mean, in a good way. In a good way. I don't mean this detrimentally, but he just looks so different than everybody else. And the role he had lent into that. So it was just a great character actor piece. I was really impressed with him. Really enjoyed him.
That grin is so off-putting.
Yeah.
It's inappropriate in all sorts of ways, but he's always grinning.
Well, the glasses didn't make him seem any more normal either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he had like this sinister aura about him, but it wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't like.
It was impish. He
impish is a good way to put it. Yeah.
Just like he's in it. He's in it for the fun or whatever. And
he's in another film that also Villiers was in, and one that one day I'll probably pick it, even though it's not a horror film. It's got some horror elements. The Ruling Class, which has pretty much every great actor in England at the time was in this film. Hard film for me to recommend, but I do recommend it. Only some people like it, though.
Do we have a picture of Mark Edwards?
I don't think I do.
Okay. Well, the interesting thing about Mark Edwards is he plays a character named Todd Browning. Now, if anybody here on the panel place the name Todd Browning.
Nah, can't.
Dracula.
Yeah.
I thought
mystery.
That was so cool, though. I caught that right away. Because they don't really, they say, she calls him Todd and then everybody else calls him Mr. Browning, but they never say Todd Browning. At least I never heard it.
It was interesting.
Todd?
Well, I guess the writer was a big horror fan,
right?
Too, so he
usually I don't like it when they do that. It's like, here come two random characters. Hi, I'm David Romero, and this is my friend George Cronenberg. You're like, oh, okay, shut up, But Todd Browning is so obscure, sadly, to most people that,
especially
that's fine.
Especially probably.
That's some great silent films with Lon Chaney too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Killed his career.
There was
with
another
Freaks.
weird thing, dude. I'm sure you guys noticed it, but where Corbeck, that sort of abandoned building that he was hiding in or spying on her, I forget.
Oh,
what
yes.
Window peeping. There was a sign outside that said to let call Skeggs and Name, who were the production managers for this.
Having fun.
Yes. Yep. Which is great. Right?
He's spying on. He's using binoculars to spy on Valerie Lone in her room and everything. And then when he sees it, it's all like, I was just doing it to get the mummy. And he's so evil, you believe it. It's like, he was totally not. He did not care if she was wearing what she was wearing or anything. He's just trying to get this mummy thing going. You are an evil guy.
What about the ending?
The only time we see a mummy wrapped up, if indeed mummy.
Oh,
she
you know,
is.
you're right. You're right.
And
oh my
who
God.
is it?
I didn't even think about it.
See, I never, when I was a kid watching it, I felt like, even at the time, I'm a kid, I don't know anything, and I'm like, they want me to think that we don't know who it is, but she looks so afraid and fearful that to me it's obvious she's the good one, not the bad one.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't work for me.
By the bad one.
She's Margaret, not Tara.
Yeah, but she looked too terrified to be Tara.
Now she is the mummy.
Yeah.
I didn't even put that together. Dag damn it. I didn't even think about it being wrapped at the end. But she was. Totally, wasn't she?
That's so when the distributors said, hey, there's no mummy in this, they're like, no, at the very end, last shot. Shut up. Go away.
I thought it was great. I mean, I liked it way better than the second and third one. And there's no money. There's no shambling mummy.
Right. Because that's the thing. Mummies, listen, I made a mummy movie, but mummies tend to be they're dry and husky, and a good kick would knock them down. Except Peter Cushing, except Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee's mummy could be a linebacker. That mummy could move.
It's like the Incredible Hulk of mummies.
Oh yeah, nothing stops him. But basically, he's just a dry, dusty zombie.
Which one is it where they, at the end, the mummy's like not dissolves, but crumbles away?
And he grabs his face and goes, "Argh."
Yeah.
I think that's a shroud, I think.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
And somebody mentioned
another part I like.
Somebody mentioned Michael Ripper earlier. I think it was one of my films, he has a pretty significant role as opposed to like a cameo.
Yeah, the mummy shroud, yeah.
But this is the only mummy movie he wasn't in out of the Hammer movies. I was expecting him to show up somewhere. He doesn't.
Just be a victim.
Now, somebody does show up that's interesting. I don't... Okay, so who's a Buffy the Vampire fan?
Ooh.
Vampire Slayer. Rupert Giles, you know who
that is?
So Anthony Head, right, makes a brief appearance in here. His hair is long, 70s shag.
I didn't recognize him.
I didn't see him.
I didn't see him at all.
Oh, was that...
So he's the professor guy, right? I'm not familiar with... You'd be surprised that I never really watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
What?
I know. Is that crazy?
Well, who was he? Okay, which one of these was he? The long-haired guy? Was that in Buffy?
No.
In this movie.
Was he the guy that there was a guy following them into the tomb that had long black hair that was kind of bent over?
Oh, this was blonde. It was blonde hair. It should be blonde hair. So.
Okay.
No, I don't know where he appeared.
Well, I got to tell you those two male nurses in the
those guys
asylum were
damn.
They never got their comeuppance.
No, but I do think
they didn't.
Did they make a sexual reference when they walked around the corner?
I think they might have.
I think they did.
Oh yeah.
I think they made a little like let's go back into the
they were
into the closet and have some fun.
Really gay.
Well,
I don't know why I work here. Oh, we know why you work.
Oh, we know why you work here. Wink, wink. I'm like, ah. And I guess that there was a scene that got cut out where they were more abusive to the guy, and that got cut out because apparently it was in the news recently of nurses abusing people in asylums. Which, guy. That's a common theme. And I'll say Hammer. I don't know if that's an English thing or if it's a Hammer thing or the screenwriters, but when you think about it, whenever they have an insane asylum in a Hammer movie, there is no more loathsome groups of people in the world than the orderlies and nurses. It's like Frankenstein, the monster from hell. Dr. Frankenstein is the head of the asylum. And he's like the most decent guy there. Yeah, he cuts off their arms and puts them together and make a monster. But I'd rather spend a week with him than any of the other guys. Oof.
But that guy he's got like 150 credits. James Cossins, the older of the two, was recognizable. I'd seen him in a bunch of stuff.
I think what really makes this film is the cast of character actors that are surrounding this. They're all getting chased down by Valerie Leon in vicious mode, trying to get these relics back.
Yeah, I think that's one reason why I love the Hammer films so much, is that even low budget English films and exploitation films, it just feels like they had a good supply of decent character actors to draw.
Mm-hmm.
That may not be for long, but they come in, they do their lines, they put a little bit of idiosyncrasies in, individual thing. They're just not forgettable.
Yeah, because there's really only two younger actors in this. It's it's a Margaret and Todd are the only characters that are young. And I wonder if that has a lot to do with its reception, because it didn't appeal to younger audiences. It didn't have anybody they could relate to.
Yeah, that could be true.
Do you think? I mean, you saw it, Bill, as a kid. Did it? I mean, I was distracted by the underwear.
I was so distracted by how beautiful she was. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I was raised on the Universal films, and everyone in those films is a grown-up person. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's having grown up with those. Continuing on. I've never been really drawn to films just because they have young people in it. Now, modern audiences, yes. If any of the Scream films has anybody over the age of 30, everyone just zones out. But, no, that didn't really bug me much. I did think, was it Todd? Todd's the boyfriend's name. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought they got rid of him awfully fast and without really any fanfare. It's like, okay, it's kind of cool that the guy we think is going to make it to the end and be the hero just gets offed. But I kind of think you deserve a little bit more than what they got.
And again, I don't know where they get their information, but Steve Haberman claimed that Seth Holt's intent on that crash was obviously the car was not moving.
No, not at all.
So his intent was to take those and create like sepia tone stills that would do a montage of.
Oh, that would have made a whole lot more sense.
This crash was an ending, but Carreras didn't know that, and I don't know if anybody who did know it didn't tell him or didn't follow through or whatever the deal was, and he ended up with that.
Yeah.
Just goofy looking thing. But
that took my wife right out of the picture when she watched that. It's like, that car was not moving.
Yeah.
You're right there.
Yeah.
The magic wind was taking him.
Magic wind. Indeed.
Who was the guy that played the old guy in the insane asylum was in Citizen Kane. I mean,
wow.
Career goes back. He's got like 150 credits too, so these were well seasoned actors. George Carreras. Yeah.
Interesting, the film got fairly positive reviews at the time, calling it well polished and even though they might have said it was tamed, it was polished and well acted. And I think they're right. I mean, it's a tremendous fun, skillful, and wonderfully energetic. The New York Times said, might be overselling it, but it's not incorrect either. So it's really interesting because it got relegated to be a B picture.
Yeah.
In both sides of the ocean, I think.
Well, I thought I read somewhere that it was intended to be a companion piece with Dr. Jekyll's Sister Hyde.
Mm-hmm. That's where it got placed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it was it wasn't the lead. Apparently they, even though Michael Carreras did, obviously do it, they did ask Don Sharp to step in, and he was unable to. That would have been interesting for a week. All right. Anyway, so there you go. I think that's that landed.
I'll bet. I was just thinking about that. I'm sorry. Anthony Head. It just hit me that I'll bet he was the guy that was mugging the Jeffrey's secretary that one time. There was a young guy that was like trying to hug her from behind, and she's like, "Oh, leave me alone! I got to work," or something.
Oh yeah. That's it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. That's our review and take and general discussion about blood.
Wasn't there a shot with all the hand effects stuck in there?
Did we not?
Yeah.
Do we have all the hand effects? Oh, there it is.
There we go.
Okay. There's the hand. We gotta talk. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Chad, but the bloody
talk about this.
The bloody stump.
Yeah.
was both incredibly fake and insanely fascinating at the same time. I mean,
Yes.
I did not hate it.
Yeah. That's got some more arteries than an actual stump would have.
There was a lot, but the stuff oozing out was cool. I loved it when again, the old guy in the insane asylum dies, and they do the close up of his neck, and it's like, I know it was supposed to be blood spurting out, but it looked like something's moving under there. That's
I think they used the same prosthetic for every single throat.
They probably did just slap them on there because they all look the same. But it worked. I mean, and there was like all 5 of the tomb guys died, right? And then so what it was like, I think I saw it. It was I think it was down on our notes, 15 body.
Yeah.
So that's pretty.
I was trying to come up with those. They must count. I'm missing somebody out of the list I did.
You got to love the box. Oh man, boy, is she good looking. You got to love that effect though with the hand in the box, because like who didn't do that when you were a kid? Did you ever do the thing where you have like the little box
the
fake finger in it? Oh,
I did. I actually did for Halloween one year. I was the Thing. I was underneath a table with a with a. Jesus Christ! I think I'm getting.
What did he say? What did he think about
you
it?
and Jesus hanging under a table?
Yeah.
No, I was under the table, and there was a
sandal scandal.
we
right
had
there.
blankets just hanging over the side, and we made a box, and I stuck my hand up, and my dad would say, "Oh, we've got 3 trick-or-treaters here," And so anyway,
I'm just thinking I'd love to go like do Halloween with Jesus, because it's like I'd get a couple of Twizzlers and he would like turn it into a whole bag full of Snickers.
Or just come in with a stinky fish.
Nah.
And have somebody just...
A stinky fish? Why a stinky fish?
Would he turn 1 fish into 10 or something, or 100?
Tell you
See, you were naughty. I'm nice. I get Snickers.
You get stinky fish? All right, I don't know where this conversation is going.
Me neither.
Straight to hell.
I'm very tired.
But we're slowly, going through all the 70s Hammers film. We've got a few left.
I'm writing a children's book called Jesus and the Stinky Fish.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
There you go. Well, I think we should just cut this quick and go straight to feedback. Jeff, do we have feedback tonight?
We got feedback. We do. The first one is on episode 195, 3 on a Meat Hook. William Girdler film. And Chad picked that one, if I remember right. Is that right? How's your... Well, this is a pretty long one. You up for that, Chad? Or West Diorio. Yeah.
Diorio? All right. Yeah, I can rock. I'll give it a shot.
Do it.
Wes says, thank you for covering this film. This has been a strange favorite of mine for many years, and one of those movies you think no one else has ever seen or heard of except you. I discovered this in our local mom and pop video store in the early 1990s when I was in college. To this day, I still think that this is the best way to discover movies. It is. I mean, that used to be the funnest thing to do. Browsing the shelves at the local video rental store, sad they do not exist as much as or at all anymore.
Or at all, yeah.
Mm-hmm. This was during a time when my friends and I would scan the shelves for the most bizarre and unusual horror movies we could find, and this certainly fit our criteria. I never heard of it before, and the box art was so interesting, as well as the title. For a few years after this, our running joke was that there never were 3 people on the same meat hook, nor 3 different people each on their own meat hook. This may have been the first horror movie I saw where the title had nothing to do with the content of the film. When I lost my place here. When the video store went out of business a few years later, they were selling off all their VHS movies. I went right away to find mostly bare shelves, but there it was, marked down to $1.
$1.
Bargain.
I kept it until my roommate and best friend at the time was getting married. This was my wish. I could have kept it. He probably would have been just as happy with a few bucks in an envelope. Although maybe every now and then, for old time's sake, he pops it into the VCR if he still owns one. I do. I recommend this to any fan of horror, of bizarre 70s horror. best viewed with a group of like-minded friends.
Yep.
Yes.
Wes. Thanks, Wes.
That's
Sorry.
cool.
Yeah, appreciate it, Wes.
Boink. Guess we could have done that.
That was a timely comment since we had just done the blood spattered bride, which he had mentioned to us. So now we have a 2 or 3 left here on The Exorcist, episode 200. Bill Mulligan. This one is from at Hate Disease.
Hate Disease says, if you ever have another discussion on this film, may I please join you? In the dialogue of Reagan speaking backwards, there are 2 lines that we, the audience, do not get to hear later in the film when the sound engineer informs Carreras, Father Carreras, that it's English in reverse and is being spoken. And those 2 lines are, "It is warm in the body and I see you." They are incredibly creepy. When Carreras and Chris are in the basement following the first meeting between the priest and the demon, Carreras is looking at a drawing done by Miss Regan. This drawing appears to be bats in a tree hanging upside down. However, if you screenshot that drawing and turn it upside down, well, that's all I'll say about it. I don't want to ruin the surprise. Well, now I've got something I need to do.
What a tease! What a tease!
Jeez.
No kidding.
You're talking to someone with severe OCD. I'm not going to get to sleep tonight if I don't go do this now. And this sounds like it's going to be a tremendous amount of work. Thank you, Hate Disease. Again, if you ever discuss this film again, I'd love to join you all. I'm not exaggerating. I've seen this film well over 1,000 times. Yeah, and when you do that, you start doing things. I wonder what would happen if I watched it upside down. Whoa! And there are so many little gems hidden in it that have so far gone unnoticed by many. I was 5 years old when I first saw this film in 1974, and I have been utterly obsessed with it ever since. Wow.
I am shocked at how many people have seen that when they were 5.
Yeah. I keep hearing this theme. Like, wow.
I didn't want to see it when I was 5. I was sort of forced
Yeah,
to
that's
see
right.
it.
Your uncle took you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hate Disease, sir or ma'am, small child, whatever.
I wasn't allowed to see him too much later. So.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I could see. Jeez. My folks wouldn't let me watch The Twilight Zone. When
Would
it was
or
on
wouldn't?
Originally. Would not let me because I'd have nightmares. And I found out most of the stories they told me about, you can't do this, you can't do that, was because they didn't like it. They didn't want to watch it, so they made up. They didn't just say tough. We're watching. We're in charge. You're not. We're not watching that. You know.
Your hair will turn pink if you watch it.
Yeah. If you so here's another one on The Exorcist. Erica Abbott, doctor. You want to take that one?
I do. Erica Abbott, 2938 has to say, I don't believe it was grooming. I believe he built a relationship so she could trust him being the content of what she asked to do. I guess we should talk that he here, of course, is the director and
William Friedkin,
and Linda Blair. Now, if Linda has told you otherwise, I am wrong and take back my statement. But of all the interviews I've seen of her, she never said anything like that. From what I heard and saw, she took special care of her. He took special care of her due to her age. I believe that was very important to him, and if she was my daughter, I would appreciate that. I'm a huge fan of the movie, and I have a vast knowledge of the movie. I guess you could say along the lines of Mike Kermode.
He's a critic.
Okay, LOL. I appreciate your opinion. I just disagree. Also, I find it interesting that you feel this way about Friedkin, but you are such a fan of Rosemary's Baby, which was directed by, well, we'll leave that unsaid.
Oh no, that's actually true.
By a proven pedophile.
But you know, the thing is, we're fans of Rosemary's Baby and we're fans of The Exorcist. You know, that doesn't.
So
we disapprove of the people behind it may not be the best, but the art itself can be separated from the artist. At least most of us can.
Well, first
I've always heard that Friedkin took very good care of her on set, and you know, for that reason that you know, she was a youngster, and back then, I mean, now they use twins as much as they can, you know, to interchange, you know, and she had long hours on it. It was just her, you know, so I think he felt like he had to take care of her. And if you watch that documentary I think he brings that up a couple of times in there. The one on Shutter, I can't remember the name of it right now, but I think he.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, I can't remember the name of it. I can't, but it's on Shutter. It's William Friedkin's talking about The Exorcist, how it was made, and that.
Fairly recent. Yeah,
and he touched on it, and he said he didn't give a shit what anybody said. He was making a movie, so he did a lot of interesting things on there. He says to get reactions out of people. So, but
well, Jeff, give us some background why this comment even comes up.
Well, I think that there were some scenes of him talking to Linda Blair that I had seen on it wasn't that, I don't think it was that documentary. I think it was something on a disc where it felt like grooming, and I didn't mean sexual grooming. I felt like I'm establishing this relationship, and part of what I'm going to do is get her to do stuff she wouldn't normally do. And maybe that's not a big deal. I don't know. But that was the gist of it. So we had, within the group, we had these two sides of the coin. You know, she has always said, no, it wasn't a big deal. And, you know, some of it felt a little bit creepy when I watched it. And I agree. All of these things can be true at the same time, I think. You know, if you're taking a 12-year-old girl and you're getting her to do stuff she doesn't want to do, is that being a good director, or is that, you know, is that, I don't know, and doing things that end up being physically injurious to her.
And it was stuff that you probably could not get away with doing today.
Oh no!
You definitely can't shoot a gun on a set like that.
Right. So anyway, I don't disagree with Erica at all. I think it's just something that crossed my mind. In no way did I think he was trying to groom her in like a sexual pedophile way.
Well, I think he was doing his job, though. He was a director, and he's trying to direct his actor. She just happened to be 12 years old, you know, and there has to be some kind of agreement that that's okay to do, you know. I would think, you know, I'm sure a lot of things aren't, but you know, I feel like he was just doing his job as a director. He would do that the same thing to any other actor on set, but because she would, you know, she was so young, I think people look at it a different way, which I understand. I understand that.
Yeah. So I'm not. It's a line that I don't know where the reality is. I don't think he intentionally. I don't know. I agree with her, and I don't think he was grooming in a sexual way. I think he was. Part of what he was doing and taking care of her and the way that he treated her was so that he could get her to do things she wouldn't normally have done, maybe including the swearing and the some of the other stuff. So anyway,
sorry, I was just getting it for reference, not to open up the conversation again. Fine.
Yeah.
What's our next?
Too bad. Wait a minute though. So we put off doing Rosemary's Baby on Classic Era for a long time. And we knew we wanted to cover it, but we didn't know how to talk about Polanski. It depends on where you draw the line. I never said Friedkin. I watch Friedkin movies all the time. You know, he's not somebody that I boycott or anything.
I wouldn't boycott any of them. The movies are done. There's nothing to be gained by boycotting it. Polanski's a creep, and he'll spend an eternity in hell. But the movie's done, and that's fine. If you want to say I'm not going to go see anything, I'm not going to put any shekels in his pocket while he's alive, I can understand that. But who's being hurt if you don't watch Rosemary's Baby? Mm-hmm. Not Polanski.
Well, people can make individual choices too.
Yeah.
They're just not comfortable watching.
Yeah.
Something like that. So. All right.
Just gonna say, here's some bad news. There's a lot of bad people who have made movies in Hollywood, and if you know, there's a lot of films you have to put on the not to watch list, like everything with
probably some Probably you don't realize that you have to.
Yeah. It's best
So
not to.
probably better to move on from now.
Yeah.
one last. Doc, always trying to avoid conflict.
Yeah.
In the interest of time.
Murder.
Wow. I agree. Also, we got one last philosopher muse, and this is a little confusing. You guys care if I read this one?
Sure.
Philosophy confuses me.
You guys are so energized together! Exclamation point! Great idea, bringing in the fresh blood. Greetings, Bill, Daphne, and Chad. Hope to see more of you guys. So I don't know what that means because
I'm always here.
Yeah, Chad's on all.
I think he means he wants to see you with your shirt off.
Okay,
No.
next time maybe.
That's not what he's saying.
Yeah. Well, Crystal.
They'd have to
Crystal,
pixelate all the muscles out and everything.
Crystal and Daphne are not normally on. Now, maybe he watches Gruesome magazine.
Maybe.
And Daphne, Chad, and
Maybe.
Bill don't usually do those. So, or she, I shouldn't say. Anyway, hope to see more of you guys. I also watched this at the age of 5. Hell, it gave me nightmares. God, another 5 years.
What happened? Yeah.
Then again, I feel it imbued me with the seeds of creativity. Keep it gruesome, Jason. P.S. By the way, Doc, I put together a brief horror comedic video some years ago for you guys, but never got around to sending it. Hopefully it doesn't come across as being too lame. So I've got it linked here, Doc. I don't know if
Too lame for
people
us.
can watch later.
Okay.
Hey, we did Fury of the Wolf Man.
Yeah.
How bad could it?
Nothing
how bad could
is
it be?
too lame compared to that. All right. Is that our feedback for tonight?
That's
our
it for feedback. Yep.
All right. What's our choice for next week or next
Oh, boy.
episode? It's 2 weeks.
This one's my pick.
Your
and
pick.
I finally got tired of people claiming that this was better than Maximum Overdrive, so we're doing Killdozer.
Killdozer. That's a
Maximum
TV
Overdrive
movie.
in the 80s. Yes, it is.
I think that's the only reason it hasn't been done yet. It's because it's a TV movie.
No,
So
from a
Was
Theodore
it Clint
Sturgeon
Black?
story,
Yeah. Theodore Sturgeon.
but stars Clint Walker, Robert Urich, Carl Betts, who was Donna Reed's husband on the Donna Reed show, and Judd for the Defense, Neville Brand.
Ooh.
Save it for the
Neville Brand.
podcast.
That's
So
right.
anyway,
All right. Well, we're looking forward to that. That movie has come up a number of times.
Yeah.
Usually we can't find a good copy, so I guess a good copy has been.
there is a YouTube.
And go read the
finally
comic.
has a decent.
That's
one.
right.
Yeah.
The comic was great.
The comic. Oh my God, the comic. Yes,
Marvel Chillers or Marvel Supernatural.
I do
Tales or
remember
something
that.
like
I think I owned that at one point.
Go read some Theodore Sturgeon. You'll be better for it.
There you
Yeah.
go.
He's a great writer.
All right.
I'll have
well,
to dig up my copy of it.
Catch us in by 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to do it, so we can show it on the thing. All right. Well, join us again in 2 weeks for Killdozer.
Please.
Yeehaw!
Yee.
Jeez. And we hope that you enjoyed this. Please hit the like, subscribe, share with a friend buttons. We'd love you to do that because every click will help us find more fans just like you. That works well. Right?
Expand the family.
All right.
Yep.
Expand the family. Chad, Bill, Jeff, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was fun.
All right. And
Have
since
a happy
we
Thanksgiving.
happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, yes.
And now that we're an hour and a half into this, let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good evening.